Dominique Harris appeared in court Wednesday and pleaded not guilty to a charge of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. He's accused of helping 15-year-old Jareth Pluckett in the deadly stabbing of 14-year-old Bobby Maher Jr.
Welcome back. I'm Cassie and this is A Wicked World. I had posted this video the other day, but after I did, Bobby's girlfriend, Haley, left a couple comments saying that there was some incorrect information in it. It's been reported by media that Haley actually called Bobby down to the mall the day that he died, but she said that she actually called him and told him not to come down to the mall. And if you didn't already watch this video, that is a very important piece of information. And I felt like I needed to redo this video for Bobby and his girlfriend Haley's sake. The story I have for you today is one that was not only committed against a young teen, but was also committed by two young teens. It was a completely senseless crime against a boy who was only trying to protect someone he loved and cared about. This is the story of Bobby Maher. Robert or Bobby Dean Maher Jr. was born on August 25, 2009, to his parents, Mary and Robert Maher Sr., and he was the youngest of four boys. He loved going on adventures and was also very driven. Bobby was said to have a spunky personality, and he was very intelligent as well as athletic. Additionally, he loved playing basketball, and he wanted to be a marine biologist when he was older. On the afternoon of April 7, 2024, shortly after 1 p.m., Bobby, who had been playing darts with his best friend down at a local club, called up his father and told him that the best friend's dad was going to drive them down to the East Ridge Mall in Casper, Wyoming. There, he was planning on meeting up with his girlfriend, Haley. Bobby's dad told Bobby that that was fine and he would pick him up from the mall later, around 5 p.m. They both then said, "I love you," and the father and son hung up the phone. The plan was that after Bobby's dad had picked him up from the mall later that day, he was going to bring him to their new home. The family had actually been living in temporary accommodations since they had lost their house about a month prior, and they were finally getting their new home that very day. But only 20 minutes later, Robert Sr. would receive a phone call, but this time it wasn't from Bobby. It was from the Casper, Wyoming Police Department, and they told him that his son had been stabbed. He was in complete shock. But he, his wife, and Bobby's siblings got in the car and took off to the hospital immediately. But sadly, Bobby wouldn't end up making it. He had been stabbed in the heart as well as in the stomach. And shortly after being brought to the hospital, he was pronounced dead. Right after Bobby had been stabbed, a witness saw two teen boys pointing and laughing at Bobby as they ran across the mall parking lot towards Wyoming Boulevard. When the witness realized what was going on, he went over to Bobby, who had collapsed in the mall entryway. He helped to apply pressure to Bobby's wounds and held his hand as they waited for first responders to show up. Once police arrived on the scene and they began speaking to witnesses, they were made aware that there was an altercation between Bobby and two other teen boys, who would later be identified as 15-year-old Jareth Plunkett and 15-year-old Dominique Harris. There had been many people who had seen what had happened to Bobby that day, and many of them would speak to police and give them their account. The two teen suspects were found and identified almost as soon as police had gotten there. They were actually across the street near Carriage and Long Lane. They were detained and brought down to the Casper, Wyoming Police Department for questioning. Detectives would also recover the knife that had been used to stab Bobby. It was found in the snow on a grassy area that was near the mall entrance and Southeast Wyoming Boulevard. When police spoke to the two teens, Dominic would tell police that he and Jareth had gone to the mall that day to play hide and seek inside a Best Buy, as well as get into fights and altercations. Officers also found two balaclava masks that Jareth and Dominic had been wearing during the fight, which is why they had brought the balaclava masks with them that day, though they referred to these masks as shiesty masks. When police reviewed surveillance footage that was taken from a Target inside the mall, they witnessed both Jareth and Dominic stealing candy, Red Bulls, and two 3.5-inch knives. This had occurred at 11:48 a.m. After they had stolen the knives, Dominic thought better of it and decided that since he was already on probation, he would give his knife to another teen who was at the mall that day. The boys had then continued walking, and as they did, they ran into Bobby's girlfriend, Haley, and Haley's friend. Jareth and Dominic asked her if Bobby was coming and told her that they wanted to fight him. The pair then began to follow Haley and her friend around the mall, and as they did, they began harassing the two girls. This prompted Haley to call up her boyfriend Bobby, and she told him that the two boys were looking for him and that he should stay away from the mall because they wanted to fight. But Bobby didn't listen to her. He loved Haley. They had been dating for the better part of a year, and he had even given her a promise ring recently. So he wanted to make sure that she was safe. And he and his best friend headed over to the Eastridge Mall to protect the girls and confront Jareth and Dominic. When Bobby and his friend arrived, they saw Jareth and Dominic walking in front of the girls outside of Dick's Sporting Goods. Bobby and his friend made an attempt to get Haley and her friend out of the mall, and they told Jareth and Dominic to leave. But then a verbal altercation started between the boys, and a group amassed around them. Jareth then pulled out his stolen knife from his pocket and held it up to his chest. He asked Bobby's friend if he was willing to pay his blood debt for him. And Bobby asked Jareth to get rid of the knife because it wasn't a fair fight. Jareth allegedly said back to him, "I don't fight fair." Then Dominic got in Bobby's face and challenged him to step outside so they could fight. Once outside, Jareth told Bobby to swing at him a few times. But it was clear that Bobby did not want to fight. That was not the kind of person he was. He was seen on camera moving continuously in a backwards motion away from the teens. He also opened up his hands to show them that he had no weapon. But that didn't matter to them because Dominic admitted to police that after that, he went over to Bobby and picked him up by the waist, then slammed him into the ground, before repeatedly punching him in the face. And as he was still lying on the ground, Dominic held him down and Jareth came over and stabbed him twice. Dominic admitted to police that he did hold Bobby down, but he said it was only because he wanted to make sure that the fight was over. After the attack, Jareth and Dominic stepped back, and Jareth placed the knife back into his pocket. Bobby was able to stand up, and with his right hand, he placed it over his abdomen and staggered to the front entrance of the mall, where he then collapsed. A video had been taken of the entire altercation by a few teens who had been watching. Both Jareth and Dominic also admitted to police that they had been drinking on the day that they had killed Bobby. They also admitted to stealing the knives prior to the altercation with Bobby and said at the time that they stole the knives, they knew they were going to get into a fight with him. They also admitted that Bobby had never made any attempt to attack either one of them, even after he had been punched in the face. And Jareth claimed that he didn't even want to start anything originally. It was all Dominic's idea, even though Jareth was the one who stabbed him. Jareth and Dominic had actually put Bobby on their radar a few weeks prior during spring break, when Bobby had seen the both of them going in and out of a porta potty several times. And he asked them, "What are you guys, freaks?" Dominic, however, insisted to investigators they were only going in and out of the porta potty because they were cold. In addition to that, Jareth thought that Bobby had laughed at his brother at school one day. A few days prior to Bobby getting stabbed, the boys had actually run into his girlfriend Haley another time, and they asked her at that point where Bobby lived. And Jareth had also said to Dominic a few days prior to stabbing Bobby that he wanted to, quote, gut that dude. Interviews with the two teen killers revealed that that morning, on the day of the attack, Jareth and Bobby had a conversation on Snapchat, which had led Jareth to giving the phone to his stepfather. His stepfather had then made a comment to the effect of, "If you're going to fight, just fight." And then he had driven Jareth and Dominic down to the mall, knowing that they were planning on confronting Bobby. The other thing is, Dominic had no legal guardian at the time, and he had been staying with Jareth's family. Not only had Jareth said 2 days prior to the fight with Bobby that he wanted to gut him, but he had also admitted to testing the sharpness of the knife when he stole it, and in the process had nicked his finger. Both boys were known to be bullies at their school, and not only harassed kids, but had pulled weapons on them in the past. Investigators would end up interviewing about 12 different teens who had been at the mall that day and seen what had happened. Many of these witnesses were asked if it was possible, in their opinion, that Bobby had been intentionally summoned to the mall that day as part of a setup. And some of them did agree that it was possible. Both Dominic and Jareth were charged with conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and aggravated assault and battery. They are both additionally facing theft charges and will be tried as adults. Dominic Harris was then held on a $450,000 bond, and Jareth Plunkett was held on a $500,000 bond. Despite the boys admitting that they had stolen the knives, knowing that they were going to confront Bobby that day, Dominic's attorney argued that there was no evidence to show that his client planned to have the victim stabbed. And he said, "I don't think anyone in that group knew, perhaps not even Jareth himself, that he was going to use the knife that day." At their arraignment, Dominic pleaded not guilty, and Jareth pled not guilty by reason of insanity. Bobby's father, Robert Maher Sr., said that he promised Bobby that he will never let anyone forget his name. He also said that his son was never mean or a fighter. He just wanted to protect the people in his life that meant the most to him. Bobby's dad is also infuriated with the parents of the two juveniles that were charged with his son's murder, saying that they created absolute monsters. Monsters who took away the brightest light there was, his son. He additionally said that he wished the boys could face the death penalty for what they did. And Bobby's grandmother believes the same. She also says she considers Bobby to be a hero, and that he did not deserve to die for just trying to defend his girlfriend. Close to 4,000 people turned up for a vigil for Bobby on the night of April 11th, 2024, at David Street Station in Casper, Wyoming. Bobby's girlfriend Haley Bresler bravely stood on the podium and told the grieving crowd, "He was the sweetest, kindest, and most courageous boyfriend. He was the best boyfriend out there, and we had so many plans for the future. We are going to miss Bobby forever. He will be in my heart until the day I die." Funeral services were held for Bobby at Highland Park Community Church on April 20th, 2024, and the service was live-streamed on YouTube. Bobby Maher's burial then followed in Highland Park Cemetery in Casper.
The community of Casper has wrapped its arms around the Maher family, with almost everyone wearing blue for Bobby.
DC Martinez knew Bobby personally as the YMCA sports director and youth pastor. He took the podium starting off with a statement from Bobby's family.
The love we have for our beloved Bobby lives in our own hearts just as strong as the day he was born. He had an absolute just light about himself, a smile, a constant happiness, especially when he was playing. And I refuse to let Bobby's death be in vain, or be what causes this community to spiral into negativity or more violence. And if I have to go knock on every troubled kid's door myself, just point me in the right direction, as that's what I will do to make sure no other families have to face the incredible pain this family is going through right now. That's how we make Casper the community that shows the rest of the world that it's possible to come together as one blue heart for our youth and to truly honor Bobby's life.
Well, thank you for listening to Bobby's story today. It's really scary knowing that two young teen boys are capable of such a brutal and deadly attack. Bobby seemed so sweet and caring. He immediately went to his girlfriend's aid when she needed him. And he had declined to fight back against Dominic and Jareth, even after he had been punched in the face. Bobby's death was so unnecessary and tragic. So, if you like true crime and you want to hear it from me, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button below. And turn on those notifications too, so you'll know when I upload a new video, which is at least once every week. Thanks for watching A Wicked World today. Until next time, take care. Bye. Thank you to all the patrons of A Wicked World. Now, there's even more of A Wicked World on Patreon. So check it out at patreon.com/awickedworld or use the Patreon app. You'll have access to exclusive videos each month and more. Any support truly helps to make sure the victims never get forgotten and to highlight the shortcomings of society associated with each case. Also, if you haven't yet, go check out my new channel, Wicked Ways. Do you have a suggestion for a case you'd like to see me cover? If so, send me an email at awickedworldtruecrime@gmail.com.